What's poppin'? What's poppin'? How's everybody doing? Welcome back to another episode of Life According to Rick. How's everybody doing? It's been a very fast week. I can't believe it's already Friday and the week has gone super fast. Feel like the holidays are gonna be here next week, to be honest with you. I mean, we just got over the holidays, but the time is going by super fast. But my week has been has been good, you know. We still doing the Harlem sleeping in his room. He's doing a lot better, I must say. We've made a lot of progress from my previous episode, and he's been sleeping in his room full nights. I mean, there's been a couple of nights where he's woken up in the middle of the night and he comes into the room and he'll wake me up and he'll be like, "Daddy, come to my room." So I'll go with him to his room till he falls back asleep, and then I'll sneak back out. There was one night where he did that like three times, and I was just like super exhausted. And I'm like, the last time that I ended up going into his room, I just completely zonked out in his room with him and ended up waking up in the morning in his bed. I'm like, damn, I wasn't supposed to stay here this long. But the point is that we're making progress. He's sleeping in his bed finally, and that's been the ultimate goal. So let's hope that he sticks through it. We keep on rocking with it. So today we're gonna kind of piggyback off my last conversation and talking about something a lot of men struggle with, but almost never admit, and that's asking for help. I can personally speak for myself, in my own experience that I'm like this in a lot of ways because, I pretty much take on all the load. And even when it's too much, I may not show it, but I be stressing out and, I still try to get it done. And, even though my wife will tell me like, oh, you need to stop being like that. Like if you need help, then you need to communicate with that. But as men, we like to take the high road and be like, nah, I got this. And we don't like to ask for help. And it must be like an ego thing or the machismo, but I am trying to work on that and getting better with it, because when you have your partner, you're a unit and you're supposed to be there for one another and backing each other up. And that's what a lot of men do. We push ourselves, we grind, we hold it together, and it looks fine from the outside, but internally, that's a different story. And here's the thing, like when we growing up, we're told that, we have to be strong and we can handle it on our own and that sticks with us, right? But even when someone offers help, we say no, and not because we don't need it, but if we allow somebody to help us, it feels like we're failing, like, oh, like I couldn't get it done on my own, so you kind of your ego gets hurt, right? In a sense. And I get it. I've been there. I've had people reach out and offer support and I've shut it down. Pride, fear, not wanting to be judged or, wanting to feel like you're weak. And the reality is that that mindset, it keeps us trapped. Help doesn't have to be big or dramatic. Real help can be small as telling a friend like, "Yo, I'm overwhelmed today. Like, you got a second to talk?" And kind of just vent, let it all out, and the fact that they're there supporting you, hearing you out, like that goes a long way. Or even going to therapy, not because you're broken, but because you need to unload. And, based off of my experience, like I've always known I've had issues, right? And I was just in denial. And it took me a long time to realize that I needed to get that help. And like I said before, that moment came for me when my mom passed away. Like just dealing with all those emotions and everything. Like, I'm like, nah, like I really need to go talk to somebody professionally because if I keep going down this road, like it's not gonna end well. And it really took me down that path. Like I need to do something about it because it doesn't make you less of a man to go to therapy. You know what I'm saying? Like our mental health is so important because if your mental ain't right, eventually, guess what? Your physical, physically, you're gonna not be okay. And, you just start deteriorating little by little. And I feel like in today's society, there's like a huge misconception about men seeking therapy. I feel like even more so now, I see a lot of men that actually go to therapy and get help, but it's because that's been molded into us at a very young age. Like, oh, nah, you got to be strong. You can't show weakness. Like, you can't cry, and it's like we've been planted this seed in our minds. Like, nah, I got to be strong 24/7. And, I can't be I can't be soft or whatever the case is, and that's totally wrong. Not saying that you can't be that you have to be soft, but at the same time, we're human. You know what I'm saying? So we can be vulnerable and speak on how we feeling and all that. Like I feel like that's very important, and that's something that I'm learning a lot now. Even by going to therapy and more such even with like couples therapy like I mentioned before, my wife and I are doing the couples therapy. So us doing it together, we're learning a lot more about one another, and you know tools and techniques on how to communicate, without things getting misconstrued or blown out of proportion. So now we're listening to one another more, like understanding each other a lot better. So, there's definitely nothing wrong with therapy. I highly recommend it. If you are listening to this right now and you've thought about it, give it a try. It doesn't hurt to like sit down with somebody, and if that person is not working for you or you feel like they're not a right fit, then look for somebody else. Even being honest with your partner, like, yo, I need a break. Like, I can't handle this alone right now. Like, can you step in? My wife and I, we kind of have like this little system. It's like the tag team system. So like if one of us is having a hard time and we're struggling, we need to step away, but like, yo, can you take over for a second? Like, I need a moment. And vice versa. You know what I'm saying? But it's teamwork. If you have, the right person next to you that, you know, can help you out, you need to talk to them real quick, like, yo, like, this is what I'm feeling. You know, it's a good system. You have somebody there to talk to, and what better person to talk to than your own partner? Like they know you and you know them, and and you're there for each other. And it can even be like the smallest things that you do for yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like journaling, you know what I'm saying? You can go work out, go for a walk, you know what I'm saying? Sit alone and do breathing techniques, as crazy as that may sound, but that actually works. Okay, let me tell you. Sitting in your own thoughts without any judgment, because our minds are, they can definitely play tricks on us. And when you're deep in your thoughts, you know your mind can be like your worst enemy. So I know a little bit about that, but the key here is to allow yourself to be human. All right. It's not weakness, it's strength and it's awareness. And that really changes everything. I personally have considered journaling because, my wife has been doing it herself. She's on her own healing journey as well as I am, and we're trying to be better versions of ourselves so that way we can show up for one another and, be there for our kids and whatnot. So that's definitely something that I might start doing um soon. Especially like with me going to therapy, I can admit that there are certain sessions that I might go in and can't really think off the top of my head, like things that I want to speak on, that I might have thought about, days or, weeks prior to like going in to see my therapist. So I think that'll be very important, for me to start jotting down like certain notes or, thoughts that come into my mind that I may want to touch base on, on one of our sessions. And even as far as like working out, my wife and I kind of like came up with a schedule because we both can't go to the gym at the same time because of Harlem. So, she's trying to do her thing as well as going to the gym and I myself, I want to get back into it. So we've kind of been talking about, setting up a schedule, what days works best and so, hopefully it'll work out, which I think it will. And I really can't wait to get back into it because I used to be a gym rat. Like I used to live in the gym a lot, and then I kind of just like fell off, and just dealing with like depression and stuff like that. I kind of just like lost motivation. But I'm gonna get there, and we're gonna get there, and it'll be good for the both of us. I think mentally and physically, and getting ourselves healthy and you know, I'm excited about that. I remember a time like I finally let someone in, a friend, just for a few minutes. And man, that small moment shifted a lot. I felt lighter, I felt understood. I realized that I didn't have to do it all by myself. And I feel like that's important. It's kind of like how I mentioned in the last episode, I have like a group chat with my cousins, right? The fact that you have somebody to talk to, and it doesn't necessarily mean that they have to be there to physically do something, but just having that person to hear you out, for that one moment, like you definitely feel the weight coming off your shoulders because I feel like, as individuals, we hold things in and we bottle it up and we walk around with a chip on our shoulder and that definitely takes a toll on you. Let me tell you, it definitely takes a toll on you, not speaking on things and it's like piling stuff on and piling stuff on and piling stuff on. It's like your chest gets crushed. Like it's all that weight from all this stuff that we're carrying and harboring, and that is no bueno. So today I want you to think for a second, like who can you lean on this week? Even a little. It doesn't have to be perfect. If somebody that you haven't talked to in a while, what I'm saying, you got some things you want to lay it all out on the table, get something off your chest, what I'm saying? It's those little steps, what I'm saying? Or just something that's been bothering you and you want to talk about it. Like you have that person that you can go and talk to, go ahead and do that. We're not superheroes. This isn't a Marvel movie where we stumble across, some chemicals or something that alters our DNA and we have these superpowers, you know what I'm saying? So um and I'm kind of like being funny right now, but I'm a big Marvel junkie and I kind of wish I had superpowers, but I don't. I'm a regular human being, you know what I'm saying? So I'm learning to allow people in and help me, when I need it. You know what I'm saying? Because we can't continue to go on, you know, carrying all this weight and feeling like we could take on the world on our own when that's really impossible. You know what I'm saying? Like we're gonna kill ourselves in the process of doing that. So don't be afraid to ask for help. All right? That's gonna be the homework for this week. If you feel like you need help, ask for it. You know what I'm saying? All it takes is like, hey, listen, you got a second? And I guarantee you that it will be a different outcome than what you thought about. So don't be afraid to reach out and say, hey, I need help. So if there's one thing that I want you to take away from today's episode is that asking for help isn't weakness. It's strength. You know what I'm saying? It shows growth, because a lot of us, I'm pretty sure that, throughout the years we've gone through things and it's caused us to put up these walls and boundaries and not allowing people in. That's something that we need to correct. You know what I'm saying? Because it's okay to let people in. You know, not everybody has bad intentions. You know, there are a lot of people that have your best interests at heart, and I'm pretty sure if you let them in and help you out, you're gonna feel better. You're gonna feel a lot lighter, and it'll be good for you. So I'm gonna close out by saying that I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and I'm glad that you guys came back and listened to your boy Rick for another episode. This is already episode 8. It's crazy to even think about, 8 episodes in. I really appreciate all of you guys for your love and support. I truly do. So, I hope you guys have a great week and a great weekend since it's already Friday. So, I will catch you guys next time and we'll talk soon.